Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Then and Now Archives. I'm James, and tonight we'll uncover one of Hollywood's darkest mysteries, a story that has haunted the film industry for more than 4 decades. On a fateful November night in 1981, actress Natalie Wood, beloved for her radiant charm and extraordinary talent, vanished from the yacht Splendor. Her body was later found off Catalina Island. The official ruling was accidental drowning. Yet whispers of a heated argument, jealousy, and a possible cover-up have never faded. And at the center of every suspicion stood one man, her husband, actor Robert Wagner. For more than 40 years, one question has remained unanswered. Who was the last person to see Natalie Wood alive, and what really happened that cold night? Now, at 95 years old and nearing the twilight of his life, Robert Wagner has finally broken his silence. Not to defend himself, not to seek redemption, but to acknowledge the haunting truth he has carried all his life. Don't go anywhere, because tonight, we'll explore what Wagner has finally revealed about that tragic night. A revelation that may forever change how we see Natalie Wood. Make sure to subscribe to Then and Now Archives so you don't miss more deep dives into the hidden stories of Hollywood's past. Everything began like a fateful painting, tinged with the golden hues of Hollywood. At the end of November 1981, the yacht Splendor, a floating palace, was anchored in the poetic waters of Catalina Island, California. It was a vivid symbol of the second love of the golden couple, Robert Wagner, the elegant leading man, and Natalie Wood, the dreamy star who carried a chronic obsession with the deep ocean. Joining them were co-star Christopher Walken and Captain Dennis Davern. The clinking of crystal wine glasses echoed in the sea breeze. Bursts of laughter sparkling like sea foam. But beneath the mask of charm, a simmering undercurrent of jealousy began to surge. Alcohol blurred boundaries, and the underlying tension between Wagner and Walken erupted into a fiery argument in the dark night. Romance shattered, replaced by cold, harsh words. According to Captain Dennis Davern's account, he heard the quarrel, and a witness on a nearby boat told ABC News that they heard a woman cry, "Help me." That night, then came a heavy silence, a chilling void swallowing all sounds. At dawn, the cold waves of Catalina washed ashore a solitary red figure in the mist. Natalie Wood, 43 years old, gone in her thin nightgown, wrapped in a red sweater. The police hastily concluded it was an accident, but Hollywood doesn't believe in accidents. Although the initial file was closed with the conclusion of accidental drowning, that tragic scene still left cold questions like ice, questions that never truly sank. The forensic report, cited by Fox News and the Los Angeles Times, noted a series of fresh bruises and scratches on Natalie Wood's wrists and knees, marks that are hard to explain with just a simple fall. Could they be signs of a struggle before she fell into the sea? And even more puzzling, why would someone as terrified of water as Natalie Wood, who once admitted that just seeing the sea at night made her panic, go out on deck alone in the middle of the night? The ambiguities continued to thicken. While those on board claimed that they heard nothing unusual, witnesses on nearby boats told ABC News they heard a desperate woman's cry of, "Help me," echoing in the fog before suddenly stopping. Adding to that, the long delay from 1:30 a.m. to 3:30 a.m. before Wagner called for rescue made everything even more incomprehensible. He said he thought Natalie had gone to sleep somewhere or stopped by another boat for a party. But for a husband who once described his wife as the soul of his life, and that reason sounds hard to believe. Every small detail, each time revisited, opens another crack in the story that seemed closed. In over 4 decades, the Natalie Wood case is no longer just an investigation file, but has become a haunted legend, where truth and tragedy forever blend amid the cold waves off Catalina. The truth refused to sink into oblivion. 3 decades after that fateful night, when it seemed the Natalie Wood case had slumbered in the old files of the Los Angeles police, an unexpected spark reignited, reviving all the buried suspicions. The atmosphere then was nothing short of a real Hollywood thriller, dramatic, tense, and full of mystery. In a 2011 interview, Davern stated that he had lied in the initial investigation out of fear and accused there being a fierce argument. In an exclusive interview with ABC News, Davern said in a trembling voice, I lied. I was afraid of him. He admitted that, on that fateful night, the argument between Robert Wagner and Natalie Wood went beyond the bounds of a typical marital dispute. It became violent, tense to the point where Davern had to retreat in fear. More importantly, he claimed Wagner deliberately delayed reporting the disappearance and calling for rescue, making time the cruelest enemy. That confession shook Hollywood and forced the police to reopen the case. In 2012, the coroner officially amended Natalie's cause of death from accidental drowning to drowning and other undetermined factors. And the supplemental report noted the bruises could have occurred before entering the water and circumstances not clearly established. Investigators began reviewing the entire file. Overlooked evidence, and especially the mysterious bruises that had appeared on Natalie's body. They re-interviewed witnesses, rechecked statements, and noted new inconsistencies. The reopened investigation sparked a series of debates in the media, as hundreds of major newspapers and TV channels simultaneously asked, was Robert Wagner truly innocent? By 2018, after multiple rounds of analysis and interviews, the LASD told CBS 48 Hours that Wagner was a person of interest because he was the last person with Natalie, and there have been no criminal charges. That phrase, though not implying guilt, still stirred public outrage. For the first time in nearly 40 years, the man who was once Hollywood's icon became the focal point of one of the most shocking mysteries in film history. 40 years after the fateful night, the purple bruises, the forgotten cries amid the Catalina fog, once again returned to the investigation file as if Natalie's spirit was still seeking answers. The police called him the last person beside her. And Hollywood, once more, held its breath. Amid the storm of the reopened investigation, when public opinion was divided and accusations rang out from all sides, the reactions of those closest to Natalie Wood brought a deeply human perspective. Quiet, painful, but sincere. Natalie's daughter, Natasha Gregson Wagner, chose dialogue over judgment. In the documentary she produced herself, Natasha said in a soft but firm voice, "It wasn't a crime. It was a tragedy." She believed that, whatever happened that night, Robert Wagner's love for her mother was real, and that made the tragedy even more cruel. As the media fanned the flames of suspicion and the public demanded a confession, Jill St. John, Wagner's current wife, quietly stood by her husband. The two appeared rarely in public, holding hands tightly, without speaking, without justifying. That image evoked a sense of both steadfastness and melancholy, as if they were together resisting not only the world's judgment, but also the haunting memories that never faded. In his final years, Robert Wagner grew increasingly silent, refusing interviews, avoiding media cameras. He lived slowly, far from the glamour he once symbolized. Amid the whirlwind of suspicion, he was left only with the burden of the survivor, the burden of memories, of unanswered questions. And when he finally spoke, his words were not justifications, but a silent, heavy confession of love and regret. Not a day goes by that I don't think about Natalie. A simple sentence, but one that contained all the pain of 40 years of silence. This is the pinnacle of emotional release. The moment when, after 40 years of silence, Robert Wagner, at 95, finally removed the protective shell that had enveloped him his entire life. He didn't speak to defend himself, not to exonerate or seek forgiveness, but only to acknowledge one thing: regret. In his memoir, Pieces of My Heart, Wagner wrote lines that left the world speechless. "If I had done things differently, maybe she would still be here." Those are the words of a man no longer resisting, no longer hiding, but only facing the past like a scar that never heals. In one of his final interviews, his voice trembled, weak but full of sincerity. "I will never truly know what happened that night." That sentence, simple yet haunting, is not the confession of a criminal, but the admission of a broken heart. It is the lament of a man who once loved deeply, who made a mistake in an irreversible moment, and must carry that torment for the rest of his life. When the dim lights of the Splendor yacht cast down on the dark waters off Catalina, that image became a symbol for the rest of Robert Wagner's life. a soul adrift between love and guilt, forever haunted by the fateful night he could never forget. The Natalie Wood case is still regarded as one of the most tragic and persistent mysteries in Hollywood history. A story where the boundaries between love, jealousy, and fate blur in the fog of Catalina night. Though decades have passed, though dozens of experts, investigators, and reporters have tried to trace every clue, the ultimate truth remains elusive, as if swallowed by the water itself. The LASD states this is a suspicious death. The file is open but lacks new leads, and time is the greatest challenge for the case. Perhaps, at the bottom of that silent ocean, the truth still lies there, cold, lonely, and forever beyond the reach of justice. Without new witnesses, without physical evidence strong enough to change the conclusion, only fragmented memories remain, conflicting accounts, and a chain of questions hanging in the California sea and sky. Yet, Robert Wagner's final words have opened a different perspective, not on the legal side, but on humanity. In his twilight years, when glamour and fame have faded, what he truly shared about that tragic night carries no criminal charge, but the weight of conscience, the burden of regret. For Wagner, the heaviest sentence comes not from the court, but from within himself, where he must live with the memory of that fateful night, day after day, for over 4 decades. And perhaps that is the only truth the public can grasp, that Natalie Wood's tragedy is not just an unsolved case, but a tear-soaked chapter in Hollywood's history, where the light of fame is never enough to dispel the darkness of humanity. The video is based on public documents, reputable press, and clearly sourced accounts. Allegations remain unproven unless stated otherwise. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me, James, at Then and Now Archives. In this journey full of intricacies and emotions, if this story touched your heart, please subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next episodes, where we continue to unearth secrets, buried truths under the dust of time, and listen to the voices still echoing from Hollywood's past.